Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dawn Sterling. Now, in the story sweeping the nation, Sonya Massey, of course, was shot and killed in her home by a Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy. That deputy now being charged with her murder. And we bring you team coverage as the questions are being raised about the other deputy that was there when Sonya Massey was shot and killed. We start with Fox Illinois' Julia Rosier, who is working for you to learn more.
John, that's right. Comments have been circulating our social media pages about who the second deputy involved is and if he's facing any charges. As of right now, the deputies whose name has not been released isn't charged in connection with the shooting. We reached out to the Illinois State Police, the Sheriff's Department, and State's Attorney John Milhiser to see if that will change. They all declined to comment. This is what we do know, however, about the deputy. We know his body camera video was on the whole encounter while Grayson's was only turned on just before he shot Massey. We also know the deputy never fired one gunshot, but did draw his weapon when Grayson did. The video also shows he tried to help Massey while she lay on the floor bleeding. Both deputies were placed on administrative leave after the shooting. At last checked, the second deputy was still on leave. Reporting live in Springfield, I'm Julia Rosier. Back to you.
Thanks, Julia. Sean Grayson is being held behind bars. He's charged with first-degree murder, 3 counts. The family of Sonya Massey is demanding answers after saying they were not given correct information on what led to her being shot when they arrived on the scene July 6th. Fox Illinois' Carolina Hassett has more on what rights the victims and the family of the victims have in these kind of situations.
That's right. It was right here at the NAACP in Springfield where Sonya Massey's family said they were never told that the deputy was the one that shot her, and they didn't find out until the next day. Now, Renee Williams for the National Center for Victims of Crime says that it is unfair victims have very few rights when it comes to these situations. Williams says that even in situations where everybody knows what happened, there is still an investigation and law enforcement does not have to say anything when families arrive at the scene.
In most cases, no, most deputies would not be able to tell a family directly what happened, even if they witnessed it. They would have to work through the investigative process, which in this case, I would imagine is also going to be internal. They would have to work through that. They wouldn't really be at liberty to say to a family directly what they saw.
However, Sonya Massey's father says his family found out it was deputy involved through the internet. Williams says this is, quote, horrible, and protocols were likely not followed correctly in this aspect. She said that law enforcement needs to release all details to the family first. In Springfield, I'm Carolina Hassett. Back to you.
Thank you, Carolina. Williams added, it's unfair how little rights victims have 24 hours to even weeks after a crime, and that they tend to receive more rights once they're in the court system.
How she's making a difference. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stacey Skrzak in for Eliza tonight. We are continuing our coverage looking into the death of Sonya Massey. She was shot and killed by a Sangamon County deputy in her home earlier this month. Now, Sonya's family is demanding answers, saying they were not given correct information on what led to her being shot. Fox Illinois' Carolina Hassett has more on what rights the family of victims have in these kinds of situations. Carolina?
Sonya Massey's family is saying they were never told that the deputy was the one that shot her and didn't find out until the next day. This poses the question of what kind of rights families of victims have when they first arrive on scene.
When we arrived on scene, we were trying to figure out what happened. We were looked at like they didn't know what was going on. They laughed at us.
Family members of Sonya Massey demanding answers after they said they were not told the whole truth about what happened to her.
I once was out told that the officer did it. They tried to make me believe that it was a neighbor or somebody that did it.
This posed the question as to what rights families of victims have when they first arrive on scene.
Unfortunately, there's still very few rights in this area.
Renee Williams from the National Center for Victims of Crime says that it is unfair victims have very few rights when it comes to these situations. She says even in situations where law enforcement knows what happened, there is still an investigation and police do not have to release information when families arrive at the scene.
Most deputies would not be able to tell a family directly what happened, even if they witnessed it. They would have to work through the investigative process.
Massey's family claims that they were misled about who fired the shot that killed her, and they had to find out that it was deputy involved through the internet.
That's just not best practice. That's horrible. Things were not followed correctly there. What we encourage law enforcement to do is any facts that they do have that they are going to release to the media, you release to the family first.
So what rights can families bring to the table?
Before an investigation, they don't really have a right to demand anything. They have a right to demand an investigation and the answers that come from that investigation, but they can be locked out of the investigation.
Now, Williams added that it is unfair how little rights victims have 24 hours to even weeks after the crime, and that they tend to receive more rights once they are in the court system. In studio, I'm Carolina Hassett. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Carolina. Now, we did reach out to the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office to see what their individual department's protocols are when it comes to telling the family information on the scene, and we did not receive a response. Well, the Faith Coalition for the Common Good here in Springfield says they are deeply saddened by the death of Sonya Massey. They said in part, quote, "We see Sonya Massey's death as a senseless and unprovoked act of violence against another innocent African-American who trusted to receive help." End quote. Questions are now being raised about the other deputy involved in the shooting of Sonya Massey. As of right now, the deputy, whose name has not been released, isn't charged in connection with the shooting. We do know his body camera video was on during the entire encounter, while Grayson's was only turned on just before he shot Massey. The other deputy did draw his weapon when Grayson did, but he did not fire any shots. The video also shows the deputy trying to help Massey while she lay on the floor bleeding. Both deputies were placed on administrative leave. Well, Sean Grayson has been fired from the department. He's facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder. Grayson pleaded not guilty last week. A judge has denied him pre-trial. He is set to return to court in August. Well, following the release of the video, many questions are being raised on the regulations for body cameras for law enforcement. Fox Illinois' Julia Rosier looked deeper into the laws for body cameras.
New questions being raised about law enforcement's body cameras. This comes after the shooting of Sonya Massey. The shooting was captured on body-worn cameras. But in the body camera video of Sonya Massey's shooting, the video from Sean Grayson's body camera starts just seconds before shots are fired, with the audio being turned on after the shooting. However, the other deputy was recording both audio and video of the entire incident, including their search of Sonya Massey's property.
If it were not for that camera footage, we as a people, they would have lied, and they'd have lied their way right out of this.
Under the Law Enforcement Officer Worn Body Camera Act, officers assigned to wear cameras must have their camera on at all times when on duty. It also requires them to have the cameras activated when they are in uniform and responding to calls for service. State law says officers are not required to have their camera on when they are filing paperwork alone or in the presence of another law enforcement officer. Cameras can also be turned off when the officer is inside a patrol car, courthouse, or correctional facility that have their own camera systems. Kalfani Teray is an assistant professor of criminal justice and African American studies at Widener University in Pennsylvania. Before switching to education, he was a police officer in Georgia for 5 years.
Body cam footages are often, they are important for the public because of their transparency.
All law enforcement agencies in the state are required to have body cameras in the next 5 years under the Safety Act.
I think that they should be active all the time.
And that was Julia Rosier reporting. Now, there are conditions where body cameras can be turned off while officers are on a service call. They must be turned off if a victim or witness of a crime requests it, or when the officer is interacting with a confidential informant. To see the full law on those body cameras, head over to our website. And Fox Illinois is working for you. We've been covering this story since it broke over 2 weeks ago. You can head over to our website for a full list of content from the reports of the initial 911 call to the latest developments into the case against the former deputy being charged in Sonya's death, as well as response from her loved ones. Just head over to foxillinois.com.
Don't miss a video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today for more Central Illinois news.